The moment a comedian who once defended you suddenly starts laughing at you, that's the moment the room changes. And according to insiders whispering behind closed doors in Hollywood circles, that moment has already happened for Meghan Markle. And it supposedly started the very second Trevor Noah decided to turn a royal controversy into a punchline on live television. Because here's the uncomfortable detail that keeps circulating in entertainment gossip rooms: Trevor Noah wasn't supposed to be the one laughing. For years, he had been one of the most sympathetic voices toward Meghan's story, often defending her against criticism and even taking subtle digs at the British royal system when discussing the drama surrounding her and Prince Harry. He understood media narratives, he understood cultural politics, and he seemed to understand Meghan's side, which is why insiders claim the reaction behind the scenes was not just surprise, it was shock.
Queen summoned everyone to a private meeting. Everyone attended except Meghan Markle, and I'll be honest, I don't blame Meghan for not going, because nothing good happens when white people invite you to the countryside. We've all seen Get Out, we know how this shit ends.
Give me those keys. Rose, now! Now, the keys! Oh, be careful, bro.
You know I can't give you the keys, right, babe?
Damn!
I think Harry's a f***ing twat. Like, my life was so hard. Everybody's f***ing life is hard.
Yeah,
you were
true.
the prince of a goddamn country who dressed up as a f***ing Nazi, and now you're trying to come back as the Pope? Suck it.
The 60 Minutes interview was a great chance to hear Harry and Meghan's story in case you missed their 2-hour sit-down with Oprah or their 6-part Netflix documentary.
Trevor Noah just roasted Meghan Markle on live TV, and he's probably the last comedian anyone expected it from. He backed her story, defended her publicly, tore into the royals on her behalf. So when even he turned, she lost the room completely. It all started when their son Archie was born. That's the moment some people say the mood quietly shifted. Not overnight, not dramatically, but slowly and then suddenly. Because the thing about comedy is that comedians often watch each other closely. One joke can open a door. One punchline can signal that something once untouchable is suddenly fair game. And insiders now claim that Trevor Noah's joke didn't just land in front of an audience. It landed across an entire industry. According to Entertainment Chatter, once Noah cracked the seal, other comedians started testing the waters again, cautiously at first, then more boldly. Suddenly, late-night monologues began circling the same territory. Stand-up routines started sliding Meghan and Harry into stories about celebrity privilege. And once the jokes started stacking up, they didn't stop.
I know some people are disappointed by the name Archie, but there's one person who's super excited, the Queen. Yeah, because for the last 9 months, she's been like, please don't be Jamal, please don't be Jamal, please don't be Jamal.
Royal marriages used to reshape entire maps. Kingdoms were traded, alliances were forged, wars were prevented, centuries of political power built through who married who. And this is what it's come down to. The shift was subtle but noticeable, and then the jokes became sharper. One after another, comedians who had previously stayed quiet suddenly seemed comfortable leaning into the same theme. The strange cultural position that Meghan and Harry now occupy somewhere between royalty, celebrity, activism, and entertainment branding. And in comedy, contradictions are fuel, which is exactly why several stand-up acts reportedly began revisiting moments that the public already remembered but had never fully laughed at until now.
Now it's like, my wife actually does a pretty good Timon. You should hear her. Come on, baby, do the thing. Hakuna Matata, do the thing.
Begging for a Lion King audition at a red carpet event. That's the fall from grace right there. That one clip alone, according to industry insiders, circulated through comedy circles again almost overnight. Because comedians thrive on irony, and that moment had plenty of it. A royal prince and his Hollywood connected wife navigating celebrity events while discussing voice acting roles. A former working royal pitching entertainment opportunities on red carpets. The contrast was irresistible to comics. And then came the next wave. One late-night comedian joked about the logic behind leaving Britain over accusations of racism, only to relocate to America.
Harry said racism was a big part of their decision to leave, which things are bad at Buckingham Palace if they came to America to get away from racism.
Their big explanation for leaving was racism. They literally fled to America because the royals were too racist. Think about that for a second. America, the country that invented modern racism. That was their safe space. The joke hit a nerve, not not necessarily because of its political angle, but because it highlighted what comedians love most: contradictions inside a narrative. And when Jimmy Kimmel began weaving similar observations into his monologues, insiders say something became obvious. This wasn't just one comedian testing a joke, it was turning into a pattern. Then came commentary about Spare, Harry's deeply personal memoir that revealed family tensions, private moments, and royal frustrations. For comedians, the book offered endless material. 600 pages of a prince complaining about how difficult his privileged life was, airing out every family secret for a book deal. That line alone reportedly made the rounds across comedy writers' rooms. Because it captured the tension comedians kept circling, a narrative of hardship told from inside extreme privilege. But it didn't stop there. Another moment that comedians repeatedly referenced involved Meghan's lifestyle branding. A clip of her reorganizing pretzels into decorative packaging became an unexpected viral punchline. Why does Meghan Markle make her own pretzel bags? She takes it from one bag and puts it in another bag. That tiny moment, seemingly harmless, became symbolic for critics. To comedians, it represented something larger: the idea that ordinary actions were being repackaged as curated lifestyle content, and satire thrives on that kind of symbolism, which is why jokes kept escalating. One comedian mocked the couple's affectionate nicknames. Meghan Markle has finally revealed why she and Prince Harry call each other M and H and M, like there's some designer brand that needs a logo. Another routine took things even further, imagining absurd scenarios involving wax figures of the couple. Comedy had moved from commentary to surreal satire, and insiders say Meghan was reportedly furious watching the trend unfold, because according to people familiar with celebrity PR strategy, there's a delicate moment when criticism crosses into comedy, and comedy spreads faster than any negative article ever could. Once something becomes a joke, controlling the narrative becomes almost impossible. And that's exactly what some insiders claim is happening now. They say the jokes are multiplying. They say comedy writers are comparing notes. They say comedians who once avoided the topic are now leaning directly into it. Not because they're targeting Meghan personally, but because the story itself contains contradictions that comedians simply can't ignore, which is why even stand-up acts outside the US began joining the conversation. British comedians in particular reportedly approached the situation from a completely different angle. One of them joked about Meghan's feminist identity colliding with her royal marriage, and the crowd reaction, according to people in the room, was explosive because, again, contradictions. And comedians chase contradictions the way sharks chase blood in water. Suddenly, the Sussex narrative wasn't just a political discussion anymore. It was a comedy theme. It was late-night material. It was stand-up storytelling. And insiders say that's exactly the development Meghan reportedly feared most, because criticism can be argued against, but laughter spreads uncontrollably. And according to entertainment whispers circulating across Los Angeles, the industry isn't done yet. If anything, the roast wave might just be beginning. The strange thing about comedy is that it never announces when it has decided someone is now part of the joke. There's no warning, no press release, no meeting where comedians sit down and vote. It simply happens. One joke lands, another comedian notices the audience reaction, someone else tries a sharper version, and before anyone realizes it, the narrative has shifted. And insiders claim that is exactly the storm now swirling around Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, because once the Trevor Noah moment cracked open the door, the next wave of comedians walked right through it. One of the most talked about moments came when Joe Koy stepped onto the stage hosting the Golden Globes and decided not to play it safe. The room was filled with Hollywood elites, cameras everywhere, and the expectation that the jokes would stay comfortably neutral. Instead, he went straight toward the royal drama that had dominated headlines for years. Just a great series about a rich, white, dysfunctional family all scheming. Oh no, that's the crown, that's the crown. The line barely needed explanation. Everyone in the room understood exactly what the joke was referencing. The complicated public saga between Harry, Meghan, and the royal family had already become cultural shorthand for dysfunction, privilege, and endless media spectacle. But Joe Koy didn't stop there. Once the crowd reacted, he kept leaning into the material. Another line about Prince Harry, supposedly calling an actress who portrayed Queen Elizabeth just to ask for money, triggered an even louder reaction. In comedy terms, that was the moment insiders say the atmosphere truly shifted. The audience didn't tense up. They laughed. And when audiences laugh, comedians notice. Then came the moment that pushed things even further when Chris Rock decided to dismantle one of the most explosive topics tied to the couple: the accusations of racism that had dominated their famous conversation with Oprah Winfrey. Gone on Oprah. I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. If you didn't Google these, mother, the joke was blunt, raw, and controversial. Exactly the kind of material Chris Rock is known for delivering. But the point he was making wasn't subtle. The entire premise of shock surrounding the royal family's complicated historical reputation struck him as absurd. And in a stand-up environment, absurdity becomes fuel. Then he turned the conversation toward the infamous question about Archie's skin tone, the moment that had ignited international outrage during the Oprah interview. Chris Rock's punchline reframed the issue in a way that sparked debate across comedy circles. He suggested that curiosity about a baby's complexion happens across cultures, families, and communities, turning the narrative into a complicated mixture of misunderstanding, perception, and media amplification. Whether people agreed with him or not didn't matter. The point was that comedians were now openly dissecting moments that had once been treated as untouchable. And that's when the floodgates truly opened. Suddenly, stand-up routines began weaving Meghan's name into discussions about fame itself. Nikki Glaser delivered one of the sharpest lines circulating around comedy venues. She argued that Meghan didn't stumble into fame, she strategically found the one person on earth who could deliver the highest level of global visibility. The implication wasn't subtle. According to the joke, the royal marriage wasn't a fairy tale. It was a career move. The audience reaction reportedly split between shocked laughter and uncomfortable recognition. And then Jimmy Carr joined the conversation from the British side of the comedy world, offering a different angle entirely. He pointed out the irony between Meghan's public feminist identity and the decision to marry into one of the oldest hereditary power structures on earth. In a single line, he condensed the contradiction into something brutally simple: a feminist whose greatest life upgrade came through royal marriage. British crowds erupted because the joke mirrored something people had been quietly debating for years. But if American comedians focused on contradictions and British comedians leaned into irony, animated satire decided to take the story somewhere even stranger. Shows like South Park turned the couple into exaggerated characters representing celebrity obsession with privacy and publicity at the same time. One scene became instantly viral. Then there were jokes about the couple's lifestyle branding projects, organic products, luxury lifestyle concepts, and boutique media ventures. Some comedians framed them as symbols of a larger trend, celebrity reinvention after leaving institutional power structures. And each joke built on the previous one. By the time stand-up comics started referencing the couple's nickname habit, M and H, the laughter had become routine. Which brings the story back to the rumor circulating behind the scenes, Meghan's alleged fury. Whether those insider whispers are exaggerated gossip or genuine frustration is impossible to confirm. But the broader pattern is visible to anyone watching the entertainment world closely. The Trevor Noah moment didn't create the jokes. It simply signaled that the jokes were now allowed. And once comedians sense that permission, they don't hold back. Because comedy, at its core, follows one rule above everything else. If the audience laughs, the joke stays. And right now, across stages, television studios, podcasts, and animated shows, the audience keeps laughing. Which leaves one final question quietly hanging over the entire situation, the question insiders say is now circulating inside Hollywood itself. Did Trevor Noah accidentally start a comedy avalanche that no one, including Meghan Markle, can stop? Meghan Markle can stop? Meghan Markle can stop? Meghan